Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're diving into one of the most striking developments of the war so far, Ukraine's stunning nighttime operation that reportedly broke Russia's Crimea Corridor. This is not just another battle update, it's a moment that could reshape the dynamics of the entire southern front. In this video, we'll go through what happened, how it unfolded, and why it matters so much for both Ukraine and Russia. For months, Crimea has been the beating heart of Russia's occupation. It's the logistical lifeline that connects Russian forces to southern Ukraine, a hub for command, supplies, and air defense. When analysts talk about the Crimea Corridor, they mean the network of supply routes, bridges, railways, and radar systems that link Russia's mainland through occupied territories like Mariupol and Melitopol all the way to Crimea. Breaking that corridor is not just about physical control of land, it's about cutting off the arteries that feed Russia's war machine in the south. We had coffee once. Ukrainian special forces and drone units launched a coordinated nighttime operation that targeted several critical Russian installations inside and near Crimea. Among the main targets were advanced radar systems, supply depots, and logistic routes. According to reports from Ukrainian military intelligence, two of Russia's most advanced radar systems, the Nebo-M and the Podlet K1, were knocked out during the strikes. These systems are vital for detecting aircraft, missiles, and drones, giving Russian forces early warning of any incoming attack. By destroying them, Ukraine effectively blinded parts of Russia's air defense network over Crimea. The strikes were conducted under the cover of darkness, a decision that maximized the element of surprise and minimized detection. Drones flew low, avoiding radar coverage, and homed in on specific high-value targets. The precision and coordination of this mission show how far Ukraine's drone warfare capabilities had evolved. Instead of mass frontal assaults, Ukraine is now focusing on surgical strikes that create disproportionate strategic effects. This attack matters for several reasons. First, the immediate impact is on logistics. If Russia cannot reliably move fuel, ammunition, and reinforcements into Crimea, its ability to maintain control weakens. Crimea has been Russia's launchpad for operations in Kherson and Zaporizhia. Disrupting that lifeline forces Russia to adapt and defend instead of attack. Second, it delivers a psychological shock. For months, Russia portrayed Crimea as untouchable, a fortress beyond Ukraine's reach. A successful strike deep into that region proves otherwise. Third, it reshapes the military balance. Damaging radar systems means future Ukrainian strikes, whether by drones, cruise missiles, or other precision weapons, can be carried out with less risk of interception. This operation didn't happen in isolation. It's part of a broader Ukrainian strategy of attrition and precision disruption. Over the past several months, Ukraine has increased deep strike operations, targeting fuel depots, airfields, and command posts far behind the front lines. Each hit chips away at Russia's operational flexibility. But this particular nighttime mission in Crimea is special because it goes to the heart of Russian control, the symbolic and strategic hub of its southern campaign. To understand the significance, it's worth recalling why Crimea matters so much. Since Russia's annexation in 2014, Crimea has been both a trophy and a military anchor. It gives Russia control over the Black Sea, enables air and naval operations, and serves as a crucial transit point for troops and supplies. Losing the corridor linking Crimea to the mainland doesn't just threaten Russia's logistics. It undermines the very narrative of stability and dominance that the Kremlin has built around its presence there. Reports suggest that the operation was not limited to one or two strikes, but rather a coordinated sequence over several hours. Drones hit radar installations first, creating what Ukrainian commanders describe as blind corridors. In Russian radar coverage, then came follow-up strikes targeting warehouses, command posts, and transportation nodes. These blind corridors are essentially gaps in radar visibility, openings where Ukrainian forces can move or strike without being tracked. The Nebo-M and Podlet K1 systems that were destroyed are not just ordinary radars. The Nebo-M is designed to detect stealth aircraft and long-range threats, while the Podlet K1 is used to catch low-flying targets like cruise missiles and drones. Together, they form a critical layer of Russia's air defense umbrella. Losing both systems at once severely reduces the ability of Russian forces to detect and intercept incoming threats in parts of Crimea. That's why Ukrainian analysts call this a game-changing hit. For Russia, this is a serious problem. Replacing these radar systems takes time, money, and secure transport, all of which are now more difficult with supply lines under threat. Moreover, it forces the Russian military to redistribute its defenses. They'll have to pull systems from other fronts to cover the gaps in Crimea, weakening their overall posture. Each relocation increases logistical strain, slows down operations, and spreads resources thinner across the battlefield. For Ukraine, the operation showcases a new phase of warfare, one that relies less on manpower and more on intelligence, technology, and timing. Nighttime operations require flawless coordination. Drones must be programmed to follow precise routes, avoid jamming, and strike at exactly the right moment. This also hints at the growing role of Ukrainian electronic warfare and Western intelligence support, which likely contributed to identifying targets and navigating around Russian defenses. The psychological aspect shouldn't be underestimated either. For the Ukrainian public, hearing that their forces have struck deep into Crimea boosts morale. It demonstrates capability, innovation, and determination. For the Russian side, it sends a very different message. Nowhere is completely safe, not even Crimea, which Moscow has long presented as fully integrated into its territory. Some military experts point out that this operation might be setting the stage for future actions. By disabling radar systems and cutting supply routes, Ukraine could be preparing for further strikes on key infrastructure, such as the Kerch Bridge, which connects Crimea to mainland Russia. Reducing Russian detection capability first would make such future operations far more effective. The operation also illustrates the growing sophistication of Ukraine's drone warfare program. What began as a small, improvised effort early in the war has evolved into one of the most advanced drone fleets in modern conflict. Ukrainian drones now come in multiple classes, from small kamikaze drones that strike individual vehicles to long-range drones capable of reaching deep into Russian territory. The combination of these systems allows Ukraine to create tactical confusion and overwhelm defenses. Another crucial point is the intelligence preparation behind the strike. For a nighttime operation like this to succeed, Ukrainian intelligence had to know the exact locations and operating patterns of the radar systems. That level of precision indicates access to high-quality satellite data and electronic surveillance. Ability to coordinate attacks across multiple targets under the cover of darkness speaks volumes about Ukraine's growing operational maturity. Russia, meanwhile, faces a dilemma. To secure Crimea, it must divert more troops, air defense assets, and logistics resources from other fronts. Doing so risks weakening positions elsewhere, particularly around Donetsk and Kharkiv. Failing to reinforce Crimea, however, means accepting the risk of more Ukrainian strikes. This strategic tension benefits Ukraine as it forces Moscow to spread itself thinner. There's also an economic and symbolic layer to this event. Crimea holds not only military importance but also political value for Russia. It's central to the Kremlin's domestic narrative of victory and national pride. Any sign of vulnerability there directly challenges that story. The loss of advanced radar systems and the apparent breach of defensive corridors will resonate strongly inside Russia, both among military analysts and the public. For Ukraine, This is a demonstration that persistence and innovation can yield results even against a stronger opponent. Breaking the corridor doesn't necessarily mean that Russian forces are immediately cut off, but it represents a major disruption. Supply routes that once ran smoothly now face constant threat. Each convoy, bridge, or radar station becomes a potential target. That creates operational uncertainty for Russia and opens up strategic flexibility for Ukraine. The international implications are also significant. Allies watching from the West will likely interpret this operation as proof that their investments in Ukrainian intelligence, drones, and precision systems are paying off. It reinforces the case for continued military aid, especially in advanced surveillance and electronic warfare tools. At the same time, it sends a warning to Russia's partners that the situation in Crimea is no longer stable or secure. It's also worth noting how this operation fits into the broader pattern of Ukraine's recent actions. Over the past few months, Ukraine has targeted airfields in Crimea, naval assets in Sevastopol, and even oil depots in Russian territory. Each strike aims not just to destroy equipment, but to gradually erode Russia's ability to operate freely. This latest nighttime operation is perhaps the most daring example yet of that approach, a precise, stealthy, high-impact mission that strikes at the heart of Russian defenses. The question now is what comes next. If Ukraine can maintain pressure and exploit the gaps it created, Russia's hold on Crimea may become increasingly fragile. Follow-up strikes on transport and communication infrastructure could make resupply even harder. If that happens, Crimea's isolation would grow and its strategic value would start to erode. Of course, Russia won't sit idle. We can expect them to respond with counter-strikes, increased air patrols, and attempts to rebuild damaged radar network. Propaganda efforts will likely intensify as well, aiming to downplay losses and project control. But beneath the surface, the loss of critical systems and the psychological impact of a successful Ukrainian strike in Crimea are hard to ignore. This operation is a reminder of how modern warfare has changed. No longer defined only by tanks and trenches, it's increasingly shaped by information, drones, and timing. A handful of precise strikes can achieve what once required massive offensives. Ukraine's nighttime operation against the Crimea Corridor is a prime example of that shift. In summary, the breaking of the Crimea Corridor marks a pivotal moment. It weakens Russia's logistical lifeline, exposes vulnerabilities in its air defenses, and sends a powerful message to the world. For Ukraine, it's a statement of resilience, ingenuity, and capability. For Russia, it's a wake-up call that the war's front lines are no longer safe zones. If Ukraine can sustain these kinds of operations, the strategic landscape of the war could change dramatically. Crimea, once seen as the untouchable prize of Russian conquest, might gradually turn into its greatest liability. The coming weeks will reveal whether this operation was an isolated success or the beginning of a new phase in Ukraine's counteroffensive. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to share your thoughts below. Your support helps us keep bringing clear, detailed analyses of major global events. Stay tuned for more updates, and I'll see you in the next one.